When it comes to decisions, are you the type of person who wastes so much time and energy? It feels like there's a dementor just sucking out your soul because we don't understand why it is we can't just choose whatever it is that we're looking to choose. In this video, I'm going to break down the framework that I use whenever I have to make a small or a big decision. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to it, my name is Bennett Schwartz and I'm a high performance coach. I help people live richer, both personal and professional lives. So if you're looking to get wealthier, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You see, growing up, I was always the type of person that just spent so much time with every little decision that I had to make. Of course, even the bigger ones, but even the small ones. You know, I was the type of guy who'd go into the refrigerator for dinner and open it up and see what I would want. Not finding anything, I would close the door and then open it back up again to hope to see like maybe some magic trick happened that allowed me to see something that I didn't see before. So making decisions for me personally was such a big key to my life because every day we are making hundreds of decisions, and it is so important for all of us to know what it is that we can do to start living our life easier with less distraction. We hear about the really successful people who know exactly what they're wearing every single day because they know that every small decision that they make is only going to help them have more energy later on for the bigger decision. So how can we as just regular normal human beings make decisions if it's so tough for us? So here is my framework that I'm going to personally use that might help you make decisions a lot easier. The first thing we need to understand when it comes to decisions is that we'll never be 100% sure if we made the right decision. You know, one of the biggest things that we all think is that we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, but there really is no possible way to find out whether this thing was the right thing. So whether it is I'm supposed to have peanut butter or jelly for lunch, or whether it's am I supposed to go to this college or that college, we'll never really know because life is going to be so different based on whatever decision we really make. So understanding that and giving yourself permission to realize, you know what, there's only a certain percentage of really knowing if this thing is going to be beneficial to me, that at a certain point, I'm just going to have to choose one or the other. And that brings me to my second point, because there were so many times in life that I had a somewhat medium to bigger decision to make, and I did a lot of due diligence and I was trying to figure things out. But I heard a line by Jim Rohn that really helped me to move past that to make decisions, because his line was, indecision is the thief of opportunity. And if you think about it, so many times we don't take action. By not taking action, we're actually preventing ourselves from living the life that we want to be living in. So for example, a big question that a lot of people come to me with is, I don't know which direction, which career that I should go into. And it's an important question that you should really think about. And there's certain ways that we can figure out, okay, what is the best direction we should go in? But so many times, if we would have just taken an initial direction and just continued to pivot once we're on the path, then we'll get to that place that we want to get to. I know personally with me, I wanted to do certain things. I wanted to help certain people, but I didn't realize that there was this world of coaching. I didn't realize that I can become a coach. But once I started speaking to people, once I started actually testing the waters out, I recognized that, wow, there is so much more for me to be able to do. And we don't know what we don't know. So understanding that sometimes we just don't have all the information. And until we actually get ourselves in the game, we're not going to really know what it is out there. Yes, whether you're deciding to become a doctor or a lawyer, there's also so many decisions within each of those specific fields that we're going to have to make that we're not going to know until we actually start moving forward. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do our due diligence, but understanding that at a certain point, we're just going to have to decide, because by not deciding, we're actually not moving forward in our life. And we don't understand that at a certain point later on, we can always take that turn. And that brings me to my third point. We can always change later on. You know, there's so many things in life that we think that if we do this or we do this, that we're so stuck in it. It's like chiseling something out in the stone. But we have to realize that most things in life, I would say probably 95% of things in life and 95% of our choices in life, that especially the ones that we're being conscious about, we can usually shift and we can usually change. Yes, we might be quote unquote wasting years, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to figure out this thing of life. So if we can make certain decisions to help us get onto a path, and then maybe in 2 or 3 years we shift to go to a different path, that's okay, because the way we got to that path is through the initial path that we really took. So understanding that we might not know exactly what it is from the beginning, but as long as we're moving forward, we can always look to pivot to another path to look to do those things. Of course, we need to have that support, and that's one of the biggest things that I do with my clients, is that I really hold them accountable. And when we make those pivots, we're actually being honest with ourselves, as opposed to maybe this is just hard and this is really what the path's supposed to be like. So having that support, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, is really, really important to understand. What is it that I'm doing? Is this the expectation that I should be having? And is this really a time to pivot, or is it just an excuse for me because it's getting a little tough? Now let's get into the practicalities. Okay, so when we have a big decision versus a little decision, we have to realize that, of course, when it comes to a big decision, who we're going to marry, which college we should go to, where we should move. So those are bigger questions that we need to be asking ourselves, as opposed to what shirt should I wear today? What should I be for breakfast? What should I eat for dinner? And those are smaller choices that we need to be making every single day. So one of the things I suggest is that if I would ask you in about 3 months from now what the answer to that question was, and you don't remember the answer, it's probably going to go into that category of being a small decision that we're going to need to make. So recognizing if it's a small decision, it's probably not a significant one. So at the end of the day, give yourself a couple of seconds, a minute or so, and just make a choice, because at the end of the day, it's really not going to matter that much. When it comes to the bigger decisions, like, we need to be doing our due diligence. We need to be finding out information, but understanding about the first point that I said, that we're never going to be 100% certain, and there's only so much we need to do. So if it's, I need to be doing this research for the next 3 months to find out if this is the right thing or not, then we should do the research for 3 months. But don't be the person who just doesn't make a decision. So give yourself a deadline and say, by this time, I'm going to make a decision. There's only so much information. I'm going to figure out the scale and understand whether this is enough information or not in both sides. And then by that time, I'm going to make a decision, because I'm never going to be 100% certain. Just knowing that you could transition later on is going to be so huge just for yourself to be able to allow yourself to make that decision. The next category of decision is really a good decision versus a good decision versus a bad decision. And what I mean by that is, many times we have decisions in our life. They're actually good decisions versus good decisions. It might be, am I going to go to this college or this college? And guess what? Both of them are fine, and you'll probably be okay either way you decide. So understanding that when you have a good decision versus a good decision, give yourself a pat on the back. That's a great position to be in, because there's no really messing up. Maybe you could technically be further along in one direction versus the other when you're finished with them, but at the end of the day, you don't really know that, because everything could change. So many of the variables are going to be changing regardless, that there's no possible way to know that. So recognizing you're in a situation where you have two decisions in front of you, take the pressure off of you and see what is the best decision I need to make based on the information that I have. And realizing that either way, you're going to be fine, going to be okay, and it's going to be part of your journey and part of your story. The other situation comes in when I have possibly a bad situation. Like, let's say there is a good college or somebody I'm going out with who is good for me, but maybe they're bad for me. And with that, I would say you really need to find a mentor, and you need to speak to somebody who knows you, who can actually call you out on your garbage. We all have certain things, and we love to really rationalize the things in our life. And there were certain times in my life when I had to make a really big decision. I went to a mentor of mine and I told him the situation. And at the end, I realized that maybe I shouldn't go forward with it. And when I asked him if I was crazy or not, he looked at me and said, "No way, Bennett, you're totally fine." And what that did for me was, it sort of gave me permission for something that I knew I was going to do regardless. So realizing that sometimes we're going to have a bad choice on our plate, we have to recognize that if we can actually move forward and we can actually just distinguish what is a good one and what is a bad one, and have that support by somebody else from the outside who we can actually just speak to, is going to be so crucial. But I will tell you something about that, because whoever it is that you're looking to speak to, of course, if they're a mentor and they have experience, then ask their opinion. But on the other hand, you also want to be making sure that you're making the decision, because the last thing that you want to do is you want somebody else to make a decision for you. And what ends up happening is it could come back later on that you end up presenting that person. So whatever decision that you're looking to make sure you take ownership of it. There were times in my life where I just didn't make a decision because I didn't know which direction to go into, and life sort of pushed me in one direction. I'm very grateful for what happened and how it turned out, but at the end of the day, so many times, if we don't take that initial reaction of deciding, we really understand that it can be something that can be really, really difficult for us in the long run. The final point I want to make is a story that happened to one of my clients. You see, he was in a certain industry, and based on his trajectory of his industry, he knew that in about 10 years, he was going to be making 7 figures, which is a lot of money for somebody in their 30s. But he also had this passion to do something else, and he was debating whether he should leave behind his more steady direction or he should take a quote-unquote risk to see and pursue his passion. His passion might have been able to make that much money, but it also was a lot riskier for it to actually happen. And after discussing and speaking about it, what we came up with is that at the end of the day, he did have a decision whether he should stay in his path or go to a different one, but he didn't realize that if he would try his new adventure for a year or two, his old path wasn't buried. He could always go back to his industry. Maybe not the same job, but definitely a different company in the industry because of his unique situation. So recognizing that at the end of the day, yes, we should be strategic and we should try to plan for it, Right, guys, we could always go back most of the time to the initial position that we were in order to continue onto that path. So if you're somebody who's looking to make a career change, realize that maybe I'm a school teacher, maybe I'm an accountant, maybe I'm doing something that I don't necessarily like, and there's a passion of mine that I really want to pursue. Realize that most of the time you can try that passion, and if it doesn't work out after 6 months, a year, 2 years, you can usually go back to the initial place and you'll be in the same position that you were in initially. But at least you can say that you tried and you did it. Making decisions for me personally was such a key skill to be learning, and it's something that we're not really taught about. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.